The case for marriage in today's modern world. Introduction. Marriage is an institution that has been around for thousands of years. It has changed and evolved over time, but it remains one of the most common ways for two people to come together and form a family. People who have never been married might wonder why anyone would want to get married in the first place, especially if they're having a hard time finding someone who wants to commit. Here are some reasons why marriage can still be useful in today's modern world. Marriage has its advantages for all kinds of people. One of the most common arguments against marriage is that it's a relic of a bygone era. It's true, marriage has changed significantly over the past few decades. And while it is true that there are many reasons to stay single today instead of getting married, including the fact that you can still have kids if you are not married, it's also worth considering the enormous benefits that come from choosing to walk down the aisle. So why get hitched? Here are 6 good reasons. It's not about the money. Marriage is not about money. It's not even about love, at least not in the way people often mean when they say that. The reason why marriage is so much more than just a contract between two people who are in love with each other is the case for marriage in today's modern world. Introduction. The reason why marriage is so much more than just a contract between two people who are in love with each other is because it's also based on commitment, shared responsibilities, and a lifelong relationship. Marriage requires hard work from both parties involved, but this isn't something you can expect someone else to do for you if you're unwilling to do it yourself. And what does it take? Commitment, a true willingness to open up your heart, mind and soul, acceptance, the ability to see beyond yourself with patience and compassion, trust, a belief that this person will stand by your side no matter what happens next in life, loyalty, an unshakable bond that never lets go no matter how tough things get, sacrifice, always putting others before yourself without expecting anything in return, forgiveness, giving second chances when necessary despite all odds stacked against us, empathy, putting myself into someone else's shoes before judging them harshly by their actions alone. In short, these qualities teach us how loving others truly means loving ourselves too. Modern day life has made it harder to keep married couples together, with the stress of work, finances, and children, not to mention all the other stresses that come with living in a modern society. Staying together is not as simple as it used to be. People are busier than they were 20 years ago. They are more aware of what they want out of life, and there's less time for relationships because we must constantly keep up with our social media presence and find new ways to entertain ourselves in between work and sleep. In addition to all this busyness, there is also competition from other people who may be more attractive or interesting than yourself or your partner. So you have less time for each other as well as less reason for spending time together when you both have friends who can do things with them instead of just sitting at home watching TV like married couples did back then. Add on top of this uncertainty about whether your job will still exist tomorrow or if another company will buy out yours by Monday morning without any warning whatsoever, making even more stress for everyone involved, which means even less time spent relaxing. There's a lot of pressure to get divorced these days, but divorce doesn't have to be permanent. It's not a question of whether you will get divorced, but when. Divorce is common in today's society. More than half of marriages end in divorce or separation, and many people have experienced at least one failed relationship before they meet the person who becomes their spouse. In fact, only about 20% of Americans marry only once in their lifetime. These statistics show that divorce isn't the end of your life or your partner's. It doesn't mean that you didn't try hard enough or that your partner is defective somehow. It just means that sometimes things don't work out as planned and relationships come to an end sooner rather than later. It's common for the children to end up in a single-parent home. Divorce is expensive, and not just in terms of money. It takes a toll on your health, finances, and emotions. If you have children involved in your divorce proceedings, the process can be even more stressful for them as well as their parents. In today's modern world, it is much more likely than ever before for both parents to get involved with raising their children after a split. The fact that both parents are now able to care for their child without having another person involved can be seen as an advantage over previous generations where only one parent had custody of the child. However, this does not mean that everything will go smoothly when deciding who gets primary custody of their children after a breakup due to certain factors being taken into consideration by family courts. Marriage can't serve as a shelter when we're having a problem. Marriage is not a shelter to protect you from the storms of life. It is a boat to carry you through them. In today's modern world, people are more willing than ever to give up on marriage because they think it's not worth trying anymore. This is especially true for those who have already been married once and didn't like how things turned out. They tell themselves that they don't want to go through that again, or worse still, they think they'll never find someone else worth marrying. But what if I told you could still have just as much success in your relationships by changing your attitude? What if instead of thinking about being saved by someone else, we could work together with them toward common goals? That's exactly what marriage does. It requires two very different people with varying interests and personalities coming together on equal terms with an equal stake in the relationship. So even though each person has their own hopes and dreams, these can only become reality when both parties are committed enough to work together toward them every day after being married for years or decades. Marriage is supposed to be an orderly arrangement between people who love each other and who also have complementary skills and interests that enable them to do things together even if they disagree. Marriage is about love and companionship. It's about having a common goal and purpose, a shared vision for your life together. But marriage is also about compromise. It's about recognizing that you have different goals or different visions for your future, or even different views of what the word vision means. You have to find a way to work with those differences so you can do things together even when you disagree. Marriage isn't just about sex. Marriage isn't just about sex. It's true, sex is often the first thing to go when things get tough in a marriage, but it doesn't have to be that way. Marriage is about more than just sex, children, and companionship. It's also about having someone there for you no matter what comes your way. And if you can find that with someone who has a strong personality similar to yours, then your relationship will only get better over time. Marriage is not a religion or an ideology. It's a contract between two people who love each other enough to commit themselves to working together even in the face of challenges. Marriage is supposed to be an orderly arrangement between people who love each other and who also have complementary skills and interests that enable them to do things together even if they disagree. But marriage is also about compromise. It's about recognizing that you have different goals or different visions for your future, or even different views of what the word vision means. You have to find a way to work with those differences so you can do things together even when you disagree.